All right. Hello, ECE 240, and welcome to week 4. We are now getting into the halfway point of our 8-week class. So this week, we're going to be covering 2 chapters. The first chapter we're covering, you can see right here, is chapter 8, Intelligence. And for this chapter, there's kind of 2 things I really want you to focus on. I want you to be able to understand and define what the word IQ means. Okay. And so really spend some time there in the book of what IQ is. And there's also a great video we'll get to in a little bit that I'll share you that does a really good job of kind of giving you the history and the why of the IQ test that we use to this day. And so I want you to be able to, like I said, understand the importance of IQ, especially when it comes to, or kind of ending our time on cognitive development. And this is kind of our last week that we focus on cognitive development, and then we'll start making a turn and heading into kind of like the social emotional piece of our development. But for chapter 8 and 9, we're still very much on cognitive development. And during this week, what I want you to do is actually learn about yourself. And so we're going to go into Howard Gardner, who is a great theorist of our time, of our modern time. As you guys have learned about Piaget and Vygotsky, these are gentlemen that have been long gone. But Howard Gardner, if you were to go to Harvard University today, you could actually still take his class. And he's a professor, an individual that I've met and been able to learn from my time out at Harvard University. And I think it's a great time for you to be able to learn from an individual that's still very much alive, has come up with a great theory of multiple intelligence. And so what Howard Gardner says is that, yes, we as human beings have multiple intelligences, just not one. And so when you get to this part of the chapter, very important to read up on Howard Gardner and his theory of multiple intelligence. And I also have a great video for you to watch as well this week. There's 2 videos that are really going to help you this week, and I'm going to shift over and share with you our Canvas modules. But before we do that, when you're watching the first video on IQ that then goes over to Howard Gardner, I want you to think about and pick what you believe your top 3 intelligence are, okay? And so this is what you have to do this week. It's about self-learning about yourself. This course is a time to reflect and think about yourself, and that's what I want you to do this week. I really ultimately want you to think about, what do you believe your multiple intelligence are? And so I'm going to stop sharing this screen really quick, because what I want to do is kind of guide you through the module that's going to help you be able to build a strong understanding on a multiple intelligence and give you a very reflective look in the mirror, personal touch this week. And so here we go. We're going to go to our module now. And so here you go, chapter 8, multiple intelligence, self-assessment. This is what I want you to do. The first thing you're going to do is watch these 2 videos right here. Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence, historical overview. It does a really good job about talking about IQ in the very beginning. And then this is the second video where you get to do an interview with actual Howard Gardner. And it's a great video to give you some insight into his thinking and into his theory. What I want you to do, once you watch these 2, I want you to come over here and you're going to take this self-assessment, okay? And while you're watching the videos, you're going to pick your top 3 intelligences, okay? And then what I want you to do is fill out all this form, and then you're going to find out through doing this assessment, what are your top 3, okay? And I want you to be able to compare and contrast those, what you thought Is it what the assessment told you you really are? Okay, so what you have right here then is your question for the week. And your question of the week then goes into really doing a nice job of what did you learn? What are your top 3 intelligences? Was the top 3 that you picked during class during this week's learning, they're in the top 3 of your assessment? So kind of compare and contrast what you thought they were, what they really are, from taking that assessment. And at the very end, tell me, do you believe that we have one or multiple intelligence, and back that up from your learning, okay? So this is a great opportunity for you to learn about yourself, and it's a fun week for you to have that opportunity. Also, your quiz, Chapter 8 quiz, very simple quiz, okay? All you're going to do here is tell me, did you complete that multiple intelligence self-assessment? Yes or no, true or false. Do not put false here because then you won't get the points. Put true, and this is your quiz of the week. This is really important for me and for you as learners, that we always kind of self-reflect and learn about yourselves. So this quiz is really then supporting your ability to make sure you took that assessment so that you have a chance to learn about yourself this week. Then let's stop sharing, and we're going to go on to Chapter 9 and kind of finish off the importance of cognitive development, okay? And you can see Chapter 9 is all about literacy and language development, okay? So we're going to go now is go to Chapter 9. Very important that you must complete all the observations to pass this class. But one of the things when it comes to language development and literacy development, I want to make this strong connection to you. Reading is vital to a child's ability to learn and to be successful in school. And it's very important that we build these skills from day one. And there's research that shows that the higher vocabulary size we have, the better learners we will be throughout our educational career, throughout life. And that you can start to see a trend by early as 18 months that if a child does not have a high vocabulary size, the amount of words they own, then it's going to hurt them by the time they're 3 and 4 years old. The gap already starts at 18 months. Well, why is it so important to have a high vocabulary size by the time you are 4 years old? Well, they've done a lot of research and shows the higher your vocabulary size when you're 4 or 3 years old is actually a strong predictor of what your 3rd grade test score will be in literacy. The higher vocabulary size you have when you're 3, the higher literacy tests you will have when you are in 3rd grade. And why is this so important? In 3rd grade, in our public education setting, if you are below, they have the opportunity to hold you back in school. And once you get held back in school, school becomes more of an obstacle than complete then. And we start to divide our children out. Those that are really high in literacy and language development, we start to think of them and put them into an advanced placement or honors track to get them ready for college. And then if you don't have that high vocabulary by the time you're in 3rd grade, we hold you back a grade level. We're not going to put you on that track to get you ready for a 4-year university. So once again, 3rd grade reading ability translates into high school graduation rates. So we can make the connection that if you want a child to do well in high school and go on to college and have the ability to go on to college, then guess what? We need to start reading and playing around with language the day they are born. And if you remember that video that we watched, as early as 5 months, when the baby is still inside the mother's stomach, they can start to hear and listen. The golden opportunity to build that very intimate ritual of reading before they're even born. And this is what's so awesome. We have the ability to build a strong relationship, to build a bond, to build that attachment, all with the gift of reading a book, of telling a story, of sharing a story. So what I want to do this week around language development is give you the skills, give you the tools to improve your ability to teach others the importance of early literacy and why early literacy is so important. So what we're going to do now is go over to our class on chapter 9. And so what you have is I want you to look at and watch this video on a report on why early literacy is so important. So I want you to watch this video. It does a really good job of giving you some very depressing stats that we have in our country on literacy rates, okay? Then we have FTF early literacy. I want you to be able to go to this website and learn about all the wonderful things that we can do to help promote early literacy in the early years. Oh, this looks very familiar, right? You can see where I got it from. They have some great support there, and also with Smart Talk Read on Arizona. Okay. Also, what I'd like for you to do this week, you're building your knowledge, you're building your skills around the importance of early literacy. The types of books that we should read to children. This is to add to your skill set. The types of book, we should all read different types of book. Please print out that handout. This is for you to have, okay? This is for you to improve your opportunity when you're working with younger children. And then here's a beautiful list of books that we should be reading from children all the way from 0 to 13 years of age. So I want you to have both of these handouts so that way you can build your skill set around the importance of early literacy and have the skills to give that love of reading and comprehension and high vocabulary size. The earlier, the better, okay? And then Read on Arizona. This is a great state website that also gives you a whole bunch of tools. And what I want you to go is go right here to resources. And when you go to resources, they have all these publications for parents and for educators. The best resource to start with is going to be the Early Literacy Guide. This is an early literacy guide in English and in Spanish to help support parents' knowledge of the importance of early literacy and what they can do at every developmental age to support high vocabulary and comprehension, and more importantly, a love for reading. Okay, so I'm giving you all this stuff for free because I want you to be those change makers, those agents of change, changing your behavior, changing your ability to then empower families, empower children to meet their fullest potential, all by reading to them. Then what I have here for you is data here in Yuma. And this is some data to show you what is actually happening here in Yuma, Arizona, when it comes to our reading levels. And what you can see really quick, it does it by each school district here. And you can see the amount of children that are actually passing these scores. And when you look at Yuma County, we are at only 68% of children who are passing our exam by 3rd grade. That should not be that. That should be closer to 100%. That's a very low number. Okay? Compared to the state, we are below the state of Arizona, and even the state of Arizona is below the whole nation. We need to really improve that number. So for this discussion, what I'd like you to do is believe that you are in a position for the Yuma County Literacy Director. And knowing that our rates of literacy are low in our community, what would you do as a literacy director? This is kind of a made-up position to improve our literacy scores here in Yuma. How would you support families, schools, or the community? This is a very open-ended question, but please feel free to concentrate just on one part, meaning maybe this is how it work with schools. This is how it would work with families, okay? I want you to think through how would you solve the problem of our low literacy rates here in Yuma. I want to be able to talk about this really quick. Many people will say, well, the reason why Yuma has low literacy rates is because of English language learners. And I want to answer that by saying this. Did you know that a child who has the ability to own 2 or more languages has the ability to have a higher IQ than a child that's monolingual, only speaking 1? So then why do we look as English language learners as something that is bad or negative? It's actually something great and should be applauded because now you have the ability to speak 2 languages. The problem is not Spanish or English language learners in our community. The problem is this. I go back to that opening chart. We need children who have a high vocabulary size at a very young age. The more words they know, the better. And how do we build that? It's about their environment. It's about who they're interacting with. And if a child has a whole bunch of words, a high vocabulary size, in their home language, it becomes that much easier when they go to elementary school and learn a new academic language. The problem in Yuma is that we have kids coming to kindergarten that don't even have a high vocabulary size if they're English speakers. And then if they're Spanish speakers, some of them don't have that base foundation in Spanish. They code switch. And I'm like, oh, pues fui a Walmart and I bought some zapatos. And we can do that where many times we go back and forth in English and Spanish. But for a young child, the reason why they're going back and forth many times is not because they're code switching because it's part of their culture. It's because they don't own their first language. And they're starting to mix those 2 languages together. What we want to do, it's okay. You can learn 2 or 3 languages under the age of 5, that our brain is ready to learn languages. We just want to make sure that we're providing robust vocabulary in the home language. And if a family can only speak Spanish at home, that's okay. Just make sure you're giving that child the most experience and vocabulary size in that home language. It's the word gap issue that we're experiencing in Yuma. We have kids coming to school that don't have a strong foundation in early literacy. And so then when they're trying to learn a new language, it becomes that much more difficult because they cannot translate it with their home language. I'll end with this. There's been research and studies that shows children who live in poverty have half the vocabulary size of those children who are middle class. And the children who are middle class have half the vocabulary size of those children who are rich or wealthy, that come from wealth. So we're starting to put the puzzle together that the word gap is a social economic issue. So we want to ensure that all children have the ability to have a high vocabulary size before they enter kindergarten, when they're 18 months, when they're 3 years old. And yes, books can be expensive, but guess what? We have these beautiful places called the library, and to get engaged and to be motivated to read. I want you to enjoy these 2 chapters this week. Learn a little bit about yourselves with Howard Gardner, and then think about how you would improve our literacy rates here in Yuma County. I wish all of you a wonderful week. Make sure you get all your observations done, and I look forward to reading your work, and I'm excited for you to have a fun, thought-provoking, and reflective week here for week 4. Take care and have a wonderful week, ECE 240. Bye.